And then, so how can you capitalize and go with the trend? What are the trends right now? Have you even asked yourself that question? The question to ask yourself is, how quickly do you need to act and what is the cost of waiting? So these are the things where when you start to bring conscious awareness to these questions, ideas start to churn, right? As opposed to going, oh, hey, let me pick up a business that I'm passionate about, right? Which is a terrible way to go about things. So what's the most important as you go into this, right? What's the most important thing to ask yourself? Number one, which is, what does this mean? So right now, technically, we are not in a recession, right? Um, but like, what does this mean for you? If we do go into a recession, if the economy does start to suffer, and when you start asking yourself these questions, it starts to lead you down the path of looking at opportunities that you can capitalize on or that make sense for you, make sense for your family, and still allow you to make a good decision and to reach your goals, but while minimizing your risk and just being smart, right? And so we'll talk about that in a second. But I want you to think about though, like what does this mean, right? It probably means that some businesses are going to stop marketing. They're going to stop spending money, right? And so that means that there could be an opportunity. What else does it mean? As an example, interest rates are high right now, right? So like people aren't really selling their houses unless they need to because they don't want to get out of like a 3% mortgage or in some cases a 2% mortgage. So they're not really selling their homes. So, okay, so businesses that involve selling homes, maybe at least for now, if I get into it, I know that it wouldn't ramp up for however long this is going to take, maybe a year. But people are going to stay in their homes. So what does that mean? We'll talk about that, right? And then, so how can you capitalize and go with the trend? What are the trends right now? Have you even asked yourself that question? So these are the things where when you start to bring conscious awareness to these questions, ideas start to churn, right? As opposed to going, oh, hey, let me pick up a business that I'm passionate about, right? Which is a terrible way to go about things. And then the question to ask yourself is, how quickly do you need to act and what is the cost of waiting? Because most people, like, it's easy to associate risk to taking action, right? Hey, if I buy this business, if I start this business and it doesn't work, then the consequence or the cost of that is XYZ, right? But if you do not take action, if you don't start a business, buy a business, what's the cost of waiting? Not just in the specific opportunity, but if you're not happy in your current situation right now, like what impact does that have on you? Is the stress at your job, at your work, and doing whatever you're doing now, is that impacting your health? Because it's impacting your stress levels, or is that impacting the amount of time that you have with your family? And then from the other side of it, from the business perspective, is look, with some of these franchises, there's limited territories, right? And some territories go quicker than others. So you may love a franchise brand, and if you wait, someone can come in and scoop it up and scoop your area up, and then that's it. It's not available anymore. And that's a very real thing. We've seen it happen, unfortunately, more times than I'd like to admit with people that we've worked with, just because like we can't force someone to move quickly. Someone doesn't want to move, we can't make them move. All we can do is say, hey. And I think sometimes franchisors may say, hey, there's someone else in your territory looking at this specific territory, and people tend to think it's a sales tactic, which it could be sometimes. But a lot of times it's like, oh, sorry, they already signed for that territory. So there is a cost of waiting. These opportunities are not going to be around forever. Franchises do sell out in terms of territories. And there's the fact that a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow, right? So there is an opportunity cost to waiting. And again, we're going to dive into the specific franchises in just a minute here. Look, this is just like the boring definition of a recession, but basically it's a significant decline that lasts for more than a few months and affects a broader economy. Um, and usually people don't know it's a recession until about 6 to 18 months after. And there's varying definitions of a recession, but technically it's a decline in GDP of multiple quarters. So the reason why I put the definition up here, I know it's super boring, and I don't mean to bore you, but the reason why is because you want to see things as they are, not worse than they are. People hear the word recession, and there's so much energy in that word recession. We hear it, and it's like, recession, scary. There's like emotions and panic and all sorts of things that happen in our brains and bodies when we hear the word recession. But the reality is that the definition is just a decline in gross domestic output, essentially. If you enjoyed this short clip from the podcast, you can check out another short clip right here. Or if you want to watch the full episode of this podcast, you can watch that here. And remember, knowledge is not power. It's applied knowledge that's power. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.